I had a different video planned, but its research is taking way longer than expected, so here's a super biased tier list about car colors. If you've been watching my shorts lately, you can probably already predict what I'm going to put some of these in, and if you haven't been watching my shorts lately, then you should definitely start. Alright, so boom, yellow. Despite literally owning a yellow car, I would still just put it into B tier. Believe it or not, I used to not like it. Past me probably would have put it into C or even D tier. I used to just think that it was an overly bright color that was meant to signify a bus or taxi. It just called way too much attention to itself, but not gonna lie, it's grown on me lately. The way I think of it as now is it's kind of like a bright, annoying ray of sunshine that just peeks through your windows each morning. At first you hate it, but later on you realize it's telling you to not sleep the day away and actually get up and live the life that you should be living. It's like an annoyingly cheerful friend, so I just respect yellow now. Like I said, I would just not put it nice solid B. Blue. This is an S tier, not gonna elaborate. Shout out to Gen Z for bringing this color back into the top 5 most sold colors. I definitely have a blue bias and you're gonna see that throughout this video. Red. Okay, so here's another color that rose in ranks to me recently. I always liked red, but until recently I started to love red, especially on motorcycles, but this is about car paint colors. So the reason I didn't really like it that much in cars originally is because brake lights are usually red, right? So having a red car made it where you couldn't appreciate how well designed the lights are. Now I will have to clarify this because I always get stupid comments about this when I don't clarify it. Of course I can still see the red when it's lit up. I'm not talking about like, oh no, I rear end red cars because it's hard to see the red lights. I can still see the lights lit up. I'm talking about when the lights aren't lit up. Taillights can be some of the coolest design pieces of a car's rear end, and they can show a lot of character, even signify like signature, iconic, memorable design language of certain cars. Like think of Corvette taillights, what did you just think of? Boom, probably these. Think of Nissan Skyline taillights, what did you just think of? Boom, just these. You remember a lot of cars by their headlight and taillight design, so I think it's a big missed opportunity to really appreciate a car's lights when they're just red and they just camouflage into the red car. This would be even worse in video games, especially growing up as a kid when I played on the PlayStation 1, and a lot of games back then didn't have a high resolution and also just didn't really have super detailed models or textures, so having red cars with red taillights, you would oftentimes see the black lines, like the molding lines and whatever, just kind of disappear. It would just look like the whole car became red. So it kind of trained me growing up to kind of avoid red as a color, even though I still like red as a color on many other things beside cars. What really made me turn around with red recently is when I realized that clear taillights really pop on red. My entire thing that I just ranted about earlier of taillights, that just goes away when you have clear taillights. And to be fair, clear taillights make any car look good. But on red cars specifically, they've really showed me how much I love red as a color. And because of that, I would just call red an S tier. I put it low S tier, you know, I put it behind blue, but it's a really solid color to me now. White. White is aight. In fact, let's throw black in there too. So both of these I would just consider B tier. White and black are colors I feel will never go out of fashion and will always make great accent colors. I don't dislike either of them. Had 2 black vehicles in my life, being a Lexus LS460 as well as my current FXDR. I think it's suave, handsome, and classy. White is clean and bright, but both of these are total pain in the butt to take care of, and I think that's what really stops me from giving these an A tier. Also, they're just both too common, which also stops me from giving it an A, much less an S. I wouldn't consider these colors mid though, because kind of like with clothing and kind of like with many other things in life, I feel like black and white are always in fashion. Even though they aren't leading fashion, so to speak, they're never out of fashion, so that's why I would consider them above average. I think B is a very comfortable place to put both of these colors. But black does show scratches very easily because of how light reflects and how clear coat works, whereas white shows dust and dirt too easily because duh, it's white, so anything darker than white shows up on it. As for gray though, I have an entirely different opinion on. I think gray is literally F tier. Each company now produces like 5 different shades of gray, and I just don't get it. That could be like you really only just need 1 shade of gray, right? And then that could have been 4 other colors that could have been produced, like any other colors, blue, orange, purple, green, literally anything. Like just look at our commute to work, right? It's so depressing now. People always say lame things like, I buy a gray car because I don't want to stand out, and having a bright color just looks kind of awkward. Just 20 to 30 years ago, and by the time you go 40 to 50 years ago, cars were literally all kinds of color. You don't stand out when everyone else is standing out. If you're all a bright color, then having a bright color doesn't make you feel douchey or flashy anymore because everyone else is a bright color. And I know someone would argue like, well, isn't that just one of the same still then? Like, oh, you're advocating that gray sucks because it's too common, so why advocate for a whole bunch of other colors and then make them common? Wouldn't that make them lose charm? Absolutely not, because a human eye will always favor colors over depressing gray. Because at the end of the day, look at how many colors there are versus look at all like gray. All grays, if you squint hard enough, of look the same, whereas like a whole bunch of different colors, it becomes a sea of color. Therefore, if you have a bright color, you no longer feel guilty about it because everyone else has a bright color, but at the same time, you still have a nice color that is unique because some will have yellows, some will have bright blues, some will have pink, some will have teals. Whereas like when everyone just has gray, you know what I mean? Like you can't, like if everyone has bright colors, you camouflage in a different way. You camouflage like in a happier way. And again, it's just human instinct to love bright, beautiful colors. Whereas like the argument of, oh, I don't want to stand out, therefore I bought gray, creates a different kind of camouflage where it just creates this monotonous, boring sight. For how much millennials like to make fun of boomers, boomers had a lot of style, and even the generation that followed after them still had a lot of style and bought all kinds of colors. Like their highway photos, like I said, just 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, not even that long ago, were super, super colorful. And it's a total tragedy that in my lifetime, I've really witnessed people kill off the need to buy prettier colors because they just want to all blend in for some reason, even though you very much could also blend in if you all just buy different colors again. But before we move on from gray though, I want to add a special entry for Nardo Gray. So Nardo Gray is not the next coming of Christ, and I hate how everyone who picks Nardo Gray acts like it's some super exotic, classy choice. It's just wet primer. 100% agree with Geobaz here, and like when he said that, I felt so exonerated because like I was already memeing that in my 25 types of car guys thing. Like he said, there are millions of colors out there, and some of y'all just choosing gray. You know what? Nardo Gray is so bad that I'm actually gonna give it its own tier slot way below F and N tier. There we go. Yep, it's that bad. Like I said, it's just literally wet primer, and people are just eating it all up. I swear car corporations could release a new color called stain brown and people would still buy it. In fact, I'd probably buy brown over Nardo Gray or really any shade of gray. I'm gonna put brown into D tier. However, I will also add a note for bronze. Bronze I'll put into C tier. It's not really my thing, but I do like the way it looks on wheels and it looks better on some cars than it does others. I would never do it as a full base color finish to a car, but again, like it's up to you. I think bronze burst is a really neat looking color. I think the flake could really bring it to life. I would probably rank it higher on wheels, but obviously we're just taking into consideration car color paint overall, not just the wheels, so because of that, C. But if we're just talking wheels, B. Silver. So on Corvette forums, we make fun of this color by calling it midlife crisis silver. That's not even wrong. I mean, go outside right now, touch some grass, touch the pavement next, make sure you look both ways before you do it, and just look for any Porsche, Mustang, Corvette, Supra, any like sporty car that passes by, and look at the color of the car and the color of the hair of the dude driving the car. It's always silver. Yeah, it's always freaking silver. The only reason I would still consider this a D tier over gray and F tier is because it at least has some shine to it, and I do respect it as a color on wheels. I would probably move it all the way up to B with bronze if we're just talking wheel colors only. But if we're talking car colors, this is just the D tier, right? And if we're talking about like silver chrome, and I think chrome finishes in general are just super ugly, M for midlife crisis, okay? It is at this point that I would like to add a note, however, that I think both gray and silver do make okay accent colors and okay wheel colors. So like gray I would probably consider like gunmetal gray. That's like probably also B, C tier for wheel color. I think there's a plethora of better options you could choose for your actual car's base color. But if you want to use these as like a secondary or tertiary trim color, I think it's fine. Green. Ooh, now we're moving on to some exciting colors. The secondary colors. Green is lean and mean. If we're just talking green, this is a strong A tier. My brother would probably put it in S tier. He loves green. It's literally his dream color. He's got a green car, green bike. He always dreamed of having a green Camaro, but then he went and wrapped it a normal color instead. Like, bruh, why are you doing that? Whether it's gloss, metallic, satin, God forbid matte. We'll talk about matte later. Oh god, we'll get there. Trust me, we'll get there. I feel like green is just super underrated. The best part is it can even be pretty classy too. Now look at some dark British racing green. Like that's suave as hell. It's legit dressed for success. Like woo, I'm telling you what, like we're moving green to high A tier, like probably A+ tier. It's the pack leader. You're doing good, green. Lime green though, this is gonna be a variance. It's probably the first one in the video I would call a variance, where like with the other ones, like I talked about wheels or finishes, but this one I won't actually. I'm really just talking about lime green in general, all finishes. I think it can vary from B to S tier because like I still think green is like the de facto coolest color you can do on any supercar, especially Lamborghinis. Verde Mantis, Verde Ithaca, like like dang, lime green just kills it on supercars. I don't know how I feel about it on other cars, so hence the B variance, because this can literally not be like it's not really a matter of like wheels or accent colors or whatever. I think lime green just generally looks better on the car, like the vehicle of choice. The LS engine though, boom, SS tier, literally best thing ever made. But bladed, this is a color tier list. Shut up, my list, my rules. Okay, so purple. Plum Crazy goes hard. I also think Purple Metallic goes pretty hard too. I'm biased towards Purple Blue Chameleon the most because, you know, duh, blue. Indigo's also pretty up there. Honestly, big W. Massive W's all around for purple. It's criminal how few car manufacturers offer purple as a color, and I think it has to do with the fact that it's an expensive color to produce. It is a lot easier to produce it in modern times, but still, when you're a car company that's to make, you know, several 100,000 cars each year, a car paint color that costs a few hundreds more does build up over time to the point that it's costing you a lot. Therefore, a lot of companies just don't offer it. Back in the ancient era, purple was actually one of the hardest colors to produce. Therefore, it usually was a sign of royalty since only the richest of the rich could actually afford to wear it, especially for longer lasting purple dyes. That was usually only exclusive to nobility, so it kind of still has like a royal vibe to its color scheme. I very much think that purple as a color for cars is still super underrated, and I feel like the only reason it's not more popular is actually it's just not offered as much. It's kind of like how you can't buy burger if a restaurant never offers a burger to begin with, even though you may really like burgers, right? So like I feel like a lot of people do like purple, but because it's not offered much to begin with, it's harder to get a hold of it. So I'd like to see it return. I don't mind if some manufacturers even call it a premium color and charge a premium for it. Some people surprisingly would pay the premium for it. It's definitely a high A tier color. I do like green more, but like I said, I might have a different opinion if I saw it more. So orange straight up, I do love it, but like, I feel like I'm so close to owning an orange vehicle all the time, but I just keep psyching myself out of it. Whether it was the orange ZR1 that originally was supposed to buy in 2019, I just couldn't justify daily driving a ZR1 over a Z06, but looking back, obviously the ZR1 appreciated way more, so like, yeah, I know, I'm shooting myself in the foot over it now. Sebring orange I think is still a really nice color. I've talked myself out of a few orange motorcycles at this point in life as well, so like, again, I always feel like I'm so close to owning it, but never end up owning it. I'm not gonna lie though, I guess I do technically have an orange vehicle, only as an accent color, so my FXDR does have orange as its secondary color. Orange and black, I know some people it reminds them of Halloween, like they call it Halloween spec, but I don't mind it. Like I think it looks great on McLarens. I think orange as a color is still a really good color. I would actually only consider it B tier, surprisingly, not even A tier. What's really weird is like outside of cars, I think it's a fantastic color. Like Kiana's eyes and Hersher void form, beautiful. Orange autumn leaves, beautiful. Like orange is a color I would actually consider S tier as like a general use color. There's a higher likelihood of me owning a green or purple car than an orange car, which is crazy because outside of cars, I do like orange more than green or purple. So like if we're talking about like hair color or eye color, and that 100% goes into my calculation. So like if we're just talking cars, B tier, we're just gonna move on so I don't, you know, linger here too long. So gold. Gold, I'm actually gonna separate it by finish. So this is gonna be a weird one. So chrome gold, that's an F tier. Like I think chrome gold is obnoxious. It basically just emits, I'm 9 years old and play Grand Theft Auto 5. That's the kind of energy that it has. It's also illegal to do in some countries because I'm not even kidding. It's so bright that it can actually reflect too much sunlight during sunsets and blind other drivers. So you gotta be a pretty, you know, special kind of bad if you're literally illegal and endangering other people's lives. If we're talking satin gold, I would consider this a B tier. I think it's pretty solid. I think it's above mid. I think it does look pretty nice. If we're talking grandpa faded gold, like the one that's on the Honda Odyssey or the Honda Accord, that's C tier as hell. That's just mid. It's just straight up mid. I don't hate it. I don't like it. It's just so mid and so forgettable. If we're talking about brushed gold, like metal, that's a solid A tier to me. I'm not a huge gold fan. I don't think it's S tier for any variants that it has, but like is always like my brain is so hardwired obviously to see gold as gold. So like that's why the brushed gold metallic version ranks the highest for me, because that's what's marketed to us as what gold should look like. And to be fair, that's probably the closest to its natural state of color, so to speak. Pink. If we're talking like gloss pink, like just regular pink, I actually don't mind it. I wouldn't do it to any of my cars. I think that guys overreact to it being like a color that ruins a car. I don't think it's that serious. I think if a girl wants to use pink, or even if a guy wants to use a pink or whatever you want to be, if you want pink, I think it's a fine color. And if you like it, more power to you. I would give it a B tier. If we're talking like hot pink, I would actually give hot pink a C tier because I think it's a bit too out there. Again, it's just gonna depend on you. I think it's a mid as hell color. Pink does better when it's not as flashy. Like if we're talking satin or brushed metallic pink, that's a solid like upper B ranking. Pretty suave and classy. I think a lot of cars can pull it off. A lot of companies have actually gotten pretty confident in offering this color because it's a factory option for some cars now. I'm happy about that. You know, anything that's not gray from factory, that's cool. I think that when companies start to get a little playful, a little experimental, and they offer colors other than gray, and people actually go out and buy these colors, it encourages the companies to keep producing those colors. On top of that, faded pink, or like, you know, kind of like what I was talking about, like that was really common in the 70s and 80s. If you look at old highway photos, there were a surprising amount of pink cars actually. So it's kind of weird seeing how it went from being a surprisingly, you know, common color to something that people overly stigmatize as being overtly ugly, even though it's essentially at its core just faded red, right? Moving on to teal. This is kind of also a retro color like pink. This is something that brings back vaporwave vibes. It was really popular in the late 80s and early 90s. I feel like teal is just a B tier color. If we're talking like, we're actually gonna add aquamarine or like blue green here also. If we're talking about like aquamarine or blue green, I would call some of those like higher B tier colors. If it's more blue than green, then I would probably consider it A, because, you know, blue buys. That's kind of pretty obvious throughout this video. I'm just happy that teal was a thing that car companies used to offer from factory. I don't think it's an ugly color. In fact, I would like to see it also make a comeback. I'd like to see all colors in this video make a comeback regardless of ranking. Anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. If you love automotive content, then make sure to subscribe and like this video. Make sure to check out my shorts and other videos and share this video to your pet donkey. Until then, see y'all next time. Blade Angel out.